Hey, Canteeners, welcome back to episode 85 of Culper's Canteen Cup. We appreciate Carlton Zeus with that intro music. Head on over to carltonzeus.com and check out what he's been up to. He recently filmed a movie, a little short, little 5-minute spiel thing. It's pretty funny. It's pretty out there, but that's who he is, and that's why we love him. So I had a couple thoughts today, Josh. I had a couple thoughts. I was driving home from working out. Did deadlifts tonight, and as I told you guys in the pre-show little green room, that I rediscovered White Zombie tonight. Thunderkiss 65. It was amazing rediscovering that. Probably haven't listened to that in 7 years. That'll get you going. It's a perfect deadlift song. I'm deadlifted. I'm worn out. You kind of get closer to God when you're deadlifting. And as I'm driving home, I had a couple thoughts that occurred to me. One was there is a public health crisis that has still not resolved itself. Two public health crises, uh, and not necessarily due to COVID. COVID's a part of it, but man, it's just when are they going to start addressing the mental health, public health crisis, and the obesity epidemic? Man, I'm telling you, it is bad, dude. It's really bad. That's a thought I was having on the way home. I mean, how many billions of dollars into this COVID stuff and not a single PSA about, hey, lose some weight, get in shape, eat a little healthier. The second thing that occurred to me is, the wife sent me by this place called HT Go, where, they serve iced tea and stuff like that. And you get your gallon of tea, get your 3 gallons of water, you crush Sonic ice. It's really great. So I got a couple gallons of tea. I got 3 gallons of water because the water here is not bad for you. It just tastes bad. It's that real hard water, like that. I don't know if it's like that in Arizona and Queen Creek or not, Roger, but Apache Junction, my bad. I don't know if it's like that in Apache Junction, but man, here it's just hard water. It doesn't taste good. So get 3 gallons of nice drinking water, 2 gallons of iced tea, and a bunch of crushed ice, man, that good Sonic ice. And it occurred to me, man, we are living in the most fortunate time in U.S. history. It's crazy. Uh, you know, 100 years ago, people would have given anything to have that kind of convenience where you just stop and get yourself 3 gallons of clean, purified water. And not only that, we have ice now. Man, it's crazy. We live in a fortunate world. Those are my random thoughts with Luke. And Josh, I know you had a lot of random thoughts today. Josh always has random thoughts. So why don't you give us a couple of zingers, man?
Man, put me on the spot. I don't have any. I don't have any zingers, but I did see a. I did see a tweet today that kind of we were talking about it the other day, and about working out and stuff. And what is it? I forget what it was. It was like the average male in the United States between I forget what age. It was like 26 to 40 or something. You know, can't do one pull up, one dead hang pull up, and can't deadlift, 135 pounds. And I started thinking about that. We're all pretty, we all make fun of each other and we're all pretty hard on ourselves. And we were talking about deadlifting the other day. And Luke, you were talking about the guy you saw in the gym who was staring at that 405, for 27 minutes before before he unracked some of them 45s off the, off that bar. But it's crazy when you really think about it. You're like, you think about how old we are and the fact that, we can still get in the gym and rep it out. We're probably not as bad off as we think we are. We're bad off by our standards. But when it comes to, when it comes to the average American man, when you start talking about, just strength, I think we're doing okay. I hear you on the obesity thing. It's bananas, man. I see it everywhere. I see it all the time. And it's not like, you have the occasional person who's like, okay, that's a medical condition. No, man, these, like, you see people and you're like, man, it's not that things run in your family. It's that no one in your family runs. And you look at these folks and you're like, heart disease, heart disease, number one killer in the United States. Not COVID for you, you tinfoil mask wearers out there. It's heart disease. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy your occasional Five Guys, your occasional Whataburger, or whatever, but damn, man, you got you got to put some work in somewhere. And it doesn't have, you don't have to go run a marathon. You go walk a couple miles every day, just something. Get up and move. Get to CT Fletcher, man. Put CT Fletcher on your headphones and get up and go. If CT Fletcher can't motivate you to get up and go do something, nothing can. Nothing can. So, I mean, I don't have, dude, random thoughts. I don't know. I don't have.
That's how you get hurt.
I don't have any right
At our age, that's how you get hurt. You know, you listen to a little White Zombie, you know, more human than human, and you got a little CT Fletcher going on there, and you're like, hell yeah, man, now's a great time to try that 405 on the squats. That's exactly how we get hurt.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, I haven't squatted. Yeah. You're like, I haven't squatted over 200 in like 5 years, but we're doing 405 today.
Yeah. We're doing that as our warm up. You know, you got the riff going, you're like, yeah, and you're getting all joked. And then all of a sudden you hear like, you start a little weak in the knees.
You start going down with the bar and you realize that you're not coming back up. Like, you are not coming back up, man. Your prostate winds up on the mat. Yeah, man. It's Nobody wants that.
Dude, like this was a couple years ago. I was living in Maryland and my wife and I were racing to the mailbox. That was our daily things. Like, oh, mail's here. And we raced the mailbox. And the mailbox is a Maryland driveway. So, you know what, 10 yards max, 15 yards max. Dude, she got like 4 yards. Hammy, bang. It's like somebody shot her in the damn hamstring, dude. Took her out. She was laid out for like 3 months, man. I mean, you know, like you start pulling those hammies at this age, man. It's like, yeah, that stuff there, if it ever does recover, you know, it takes months. So I did want to say something real quick before we get into it. So I had the privilege and the honor of hosting Luke's parents up here, which was pretty badass. It was pretty cool. More than anything, I mean, you know, he talked a little bit about the podcast and, you know, just general life events. One, I mean, super cool people, super down to earth. And it's actually, you know, obviously there's an age discrepancy there, but you don't really realize it, or at least I didn't realize it. It's like, hey, you're actually, you know, they're informed people. They know what's going on. They're hip to the jive and this and that. And it's like, you can actually have a conversation with them without feeling, oh, there's this wide age gap, you know, between them. Unlike with sometimes, you know, even when you're speaking to your kids, I'm like, dude, am I speaking a language that you don't understand? Or like, what the hell is going on here? With your parents, very, very easy. And, you know, it was awesome that they listened to C3 and wanted to see me, but more the fact that somebody would go out of their way for somebody that they've never met just based off an association with their son. I mean, that's, you know, I've said it before. Luke's like, you know, the biggest thing that somebody can give you is their time. And for them to do that, I was pretty honored. Did learn a couple of things. So one, Luke, you had to be the coolest. You know what? I'm going to tell you, every man card pulled from Luke that we've, you know, in the last couple of years, and every bad thing I've ever said to him, immediately when your dad was like, he bought me a javelin. Was it for Father's Day or his birthday? Or I forget what he said.
It was one or the other. I think it might have been Father's Day.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, your cool meter went to like 10 million. I'm like, Luke bought you a javelin? He's like, yeah, man. It was just, man, to throw that thing. I'm like, I think I want a javelin for Father's Day. Like, who doesn't want a javelin, man? I'm just like, I you know, I think I'm going to go tell my mom, like, I want a javelin. I was pretty stoked.
It felt pretty cool buying that.
I'm telling you, you got 1,000 cool points where I was like, wow, you know, Luke buying his dad a javelin, super cool. It was kind of weird because that was followed up quickly with your mom telling me when she thought you were gay. So I was like, okay, so all the cool points that you had from the javelin quickly went away when she was like, yeah, he called me and she was telling me a life story, and, you know, we'll save it for a private conversation, but she was telling me a life story, and she's like, Luke calls me and, you know, he's all, you know, Mom, I got something to tell you. And she's like, oh my God, he's going to tell me he's gay. And at this point you were a grown man. So we're not talking about like 12, 13, 14 years old, whatever, you know, normally stuff like that, you know, happens, I believe, in your, you know, later adolescent years or whatever, you start to see or whatever, where he was a full grown man. She's like, he called me and first thing I could think in my mind is like, he's going to tell me he's gay. And then fortunately it was something else, but, you know, I didn't realize it. Like, you never, at least from what I gathered, you didn't tell your mom and dad a whole lot about what you did in the military, a whole lot about what you did as a MISUP. And, you know, I had to kind of fill them in with a lot of stuff, and I didn't give them a lot of details, whatever. I did tell them that you shot bin Laden. So they may have some questions on that, you know, how you dove out of the helicopter there and saved the whole team. But it was kind of shocking because it was, I thought, I mean, I don't know, I guess because we deal with each other right here all the time, and we're very familiar with what we do. I just thought that your parents may have known a little bit more about what you do in the military, because it's, I think it was like, I want to say your mom stopped just short of like, so exactly what did he do in the military? And again, I didn't get into any details. I'd figure, that's stuff that you'll cover with them. But anyway, just want to give them a quick shout out. That was super cool for them to come by, and it's, they hung out for a couple hours, and we had some snacks and a couple beers, and I couldn't get him his Texas tea, because out here all they have is the Long Island iced tea, and I'm a crappy, I'm great for like serving bourbon or beer. Any mixed drinks I don't mess with, so I bought him some Long Island iced tea in place of that. I guess it wasn't good enough because it wasn't Texas tea or whatever. But no, dude, we had a great time, and if they're listening, thank you guys for coming by. You're always welcome here. So it was a pretty good time. On to what you were saying about the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say. So hold on. So Luke's parents really don't have an idea of what he does. So what you're telling me is that Luke's parents didn't read our book, because the book is full of short stories about what Luke did.
They thought those were all you. They thought the diarrhea story was me.
Oh, sorry. I had to point that out. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it was cool though. I mean, they were going, like your dad was telling us stories about, some of the areas where he was working out early on. I don't want to give too many specifics, but some of the areas he was working on, and how when Luke was born out here in Apache Junction, where they were at in their life at the time, and some of the work that he was doing, and the fact that where I live now, your dad probably walked on this land many moons ago, before any of this was ever here, and just talking about some of the things that you had to do manually back then that now it's all automated. And that kind of goes on to what Josh and Luke, you were saying with the obesity and mental health. It's the it's the old good times make soft men. Life's been so good over the last several decades. And when you look at like obesity and mental health, I mean, dude, it goes hand in hand. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's not a 1-to-1 correlation. Not everybody who's obese has a mental health issue, and not everybody who's got a mental health issue is obese and this and that. But it's just your overall health, right? Mentally, spiritually, physically, and a lot of that stuff, especially when you start talking about weight and obesity. I mean, that, obviously not being a doctor or a biologist, that's got to be like one of the common denominators for like everything. I mean, I just see when you look at between heart disease, just overall, joints and the stress on your body, you go on to your, like I said, your mental well-being, that play that it can have on your psyche if you are overweight, and especially if you're extremely overweight, what it does to your family, the stress overall, just mentally. I mean, that's like probably one of the biggest common denominators that I can think of. And you know what? It's not going to be addressed because, one, I mean, the obesity thing's been happening for a while. I mean, we've been watching, and this is not just a COVID thing. The COVID thing's made it worse, and I think it's brought a lot of other things to light, especially with the mental health stuff. But the obesity thing, I mean, I want to say it's at least a decade and a half that I think I can really remember going back and like, man, there are a lot of fat, pudgy people, and even now I see a lot of kids. Like, I was a skinny dude. I mean, you can't tell now, but like when I was a kid, like I never hit my party ball on my belly until I was in my mid-20s. I mean, I was a skinny dude, could eat anything, but back then we were always active, right? You're always doing things. You're always outside, because I would go outside and play basketball and come in and maybe grab a quick bite to eat because I couldn't miss a game. So, you scarf down some food or whatever and you run back out and you play. And now it's, kind of going to Luke's, ice and air conditioning and this. And I was like, it's easier just to kind of sit inside and play Xbox. And I was kind of joking earlier, sort of joking with a little tongue in cheek, because we have a concrete pad that we put in out back, and we put a basketball hoop up there. And I like to go out and shoot 4 or 5 times a day. And I don't do anything crazy, but throughout the day working, once an hour, I like to go out for 10 or 15 minutes and just shoot around a little bit, and I'm kind of curious. I mean, my weight's all right. I mean, obviously some improvement there, but when you got the party ball around the gut on top of some of the activities I already do, it kind of makes me wonder, hey, is this going to help out? And I'm hoping that just being up and moving around as opposed to sitting behind a desk all day, I start to see some improvement there. So I don't know, Luke. It's, I think we got a long way to go with the obesity mental health challenge. I don't think it ever gets fixed, to be honest with you. I don't know what you do to fix it. I mean, I guess inflation can get so high that you just can't afford electricity and the Xbox anymore. So you force your kids to go out and play. But, I hate to see it as a society, but kicking it back to you, I mean, the other side of this, and I've said it before, I prepared my kids for a lot more than this. I kind of want to believe that I brought my kids up the way I was raised. And it's like, hey, the softer this generation is, I believe that, my kids will have that much better of a chance at being successful because, I've taught my kids to be aggressive and assertive and to take care of themselves. And at the same time, be compassionate, but, have some logic there, right? You want to be a good person, be spiritually connected and try to take care of, it's a holistic approach to all this. And when you have so many kids out there, and I think we're all three in the same basket here. I mean, I think the future looks bright for our kids specifically, and probably a lot of our listeners, because we've raised our kids, as you would say, be tougher to kill, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I met your one of your kids, and the kid's super well behaved, knows how to talk to adults, and at his age, I mean, that's a rare thing these days. So whatever you're doing on that, you're doing it right. As far as me being gay, it's nice to know my parents are talking to you more than they talk to
Man,
me
you got to be
about
kidding
stuff
me,
like
dude.
that.
You got to be kidding me.
No,
You
she
got
never
to be
told me
kidding.
that.
No,
But
wait, hold on. You got to freaking. Actually, I'm just messing with you. So for the listeners out there, we've had to do about 6 or 7 takes, and it's right around this time here because Luke's laptop jacks up, and so we do take 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm just excited to continue rolling with this thing.
So the gay thing makes sense though, and not that there's anything wrong with being gay. There is for me because I'm just not attracted to guys. But back then, if you think about it, I don't know, mid-30s, getting into my mid to late 30s, and I'd never been married. Back then, you guys know we were all working out a lot. Really into the working out, looking, not necessarily looking good, but being functionally fit. So I was real fit, ripped and big at the same time. So I mean, when you're when you're a single male, looking good, taking care of your body and stuff, and traveling around a lot, living the jet set life back then. When you call up your mom and tell her you got something to tell, you've never been married, and you call up your mom, they're like, "Well, here it is. Guess I'm not getting any grandkids out of them." Surprise, mom. That's what the call was about. Maybe we can tell that story later on down the road. So, real quick, one more shout out before we get into the meat of this thing. Yeah, Roger said that, it was cutting out. It turns out it was my computer that was the problem. And I was like, geez, I just, I don't know what to do. I was getting all mad because my computer actually works really good, but it's more of a tablet than a computer. And then good old Josh and Roger took it upon themselves to pitch in and buy me a computer, and so that we could record. So thanks, guys. It's really cool of y'all to do that. And it looks like it's working out so far. So shout out to Damon. He got real mad on the last episode of the one before about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and his wife. He said that we had promised not to talk about it, and we did. And I guess we promised, but sorry about that, Damon. But we've got good news for you, buddy, because this episode is about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and that's all we're going to talk about for the next 90 minutes. You think he's still listening? Nah, Damon. We're messing with you. We're sorry we did that to you, brother. But so, Josh, okay. So there's something going on in the state of Tennessee, and you're really worked up about it. And you and Roger have kind of been going back and forth. I've got some opinions on it. It has something to do with somebody wanted to run for Congress or some representative. I don't know what his name is. His name's something like Bobby Greenbean or something like that. Bobby Greenbean, and then Morgan Pace Picante Sauces. A couple of these folks are running for Congress, and they changed the rules at the last second. So, Josh, why don't you tell the audience what's going on, but more importantly, tell them why this is important. Give us the rundown, and then we'll get into debate about
it. So, before I get into what's going on in Tennessee with the the Republican Party in the Senate in the races that that are coming up, we got to talking, and it was really, you and I kind of, had some strong opinions. Basically not just about that, but about, let's say, DeSantis, basically using the cudgel of the law, to exact some revenge on Disney for their woke, their woke stance on, the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. And, we kind of got into the point to where it was like, okay, well, where's that line between, do we get in the mud with our opponents, or do we continue to take that moral high road? And, it made me think about this Tennessee GOP thing going on more and more. And, so that was, kind of why I really kind of wanted to do this. And, because Roger said it before, we all kind of said it before, is everybody has, at some point, we're going to support a woke company, just by us we need things, we have to buy things, and, you can't avoid all the woke companies. You just can't. So, where is that hypocrisy, and how far does it go? Does it know no bounds, or does it only go so far, as Doc Holliday said? So the Tennessee GOP thing, there's three folks, Morgan Ortagus, Baxter Lee, and Robbie Starbuck. They're all running on the Republican ticket in Tennessee. I believe it's District 5, because the longtime career politician who has been the representative for that district since 2003 has finally said, I'm not running. So everybody's, throwing their hat in the ring. Well, this year, the cutoff, because I think the primary, I think the primary for Tennessee is here in a couple weeks. It's very soon. So the cutoff for you to have all of your, your paperwork in, and, pay your $10,000 to get on the ballot, because, that's what we got to do these days. You got to pay a lot of money just to get on the ballot somewhere. Mr. Jones goes to Washington is that's all bullshit these days. That doesn't happen anymore. You got to have a little bit of coin to, to get on there. So the Tennessee GOP decided last week that they were going to change the rules for you to be eligible to run. And the rules are these. There's two stipulations. You have to vote and have voted in 3 of the 4 most recent Tennessee GOP state primaries, or be the operative word, prove you're a Republican. That's it. The state executive committee, which is made up of 17 members, then take a look at all the candidates who meet that requirement, and then they vote. And all you have to have is a simple majority to be on the ballot from there. Okay, that seems pretty cut and dry, right? I mean, those are not unreasonable measures, I don't think. But what's unreasonable about this situation, is the fact that they changed the rules after the deadline, after the cutoff for everybody to have their, their paperwork and their Mother May I's in. So essentially what they did, and there's some Paul Harvey to it, is, they waited till the, the opponent's football team got on the 10-yard line, and then they changed the rules. They're like, oh, no, you can't, you can only have 10 men on the field. You can't have, nope. Oh no, your linemen have to weigh under 200 pounds. Sorry. Oh yeah, those guys are ineligible now. So after, reading up on it, there's an Andrew Olgus, who's also a candidate. He has a lot of deep roots in the state, and he has donated quite a bit of money to the GOP, and he actually lobbied the state election commission, or state executive committee, my apologies, to remove those 3 candidates. What's really interesting is 13 of the 16 SEC members who voted, one abstained, one didn't vote. 13 of those were actually Trump delegates in 2016 and 2020, which is really interesting because Ortegas was one of the ones who was removed was the Trump-backed candidate. Ortegas did not meet the residency requirement. Robbie Starbuck actually moved to Tennessee in 2019. It is now 2022. I'm not a math major, but I think that's 3 years, depending upon what month it was, that he moved in there. So my issue with the whole thing is it sounds like there's some crony, good old boy stuff going on. And I personally don't think that's any way to run an election. Roger has a difference of opinion on it. And so, yeah, I don't think you get to change the rules in the middle of the game. If you want to change the rules, that's fine, but they should apply to future elections, not one of the ones that, you've already had your paperwork in and you met the requirements prior to, but now all of a sudden they're changing the rules on you because they don't like you. And, there's some opinion pieces and some editorials out there that have come out that have kind of disparaged Robbie Starbuck. He's not the one for Tennessee. He's not this, he's not that, and looking at the guy on Ballotpedia on the issues, he's pretty conservative. He's, his family fled Cuba during the 70s. His family knows what it's like to live under communism. And he carries the conservative torch very well. His voting record all the way back to when he lived in California is consistently Republican, consistently conservative. So, I don't know. Roger's good with it. Roger's not good with it. I don't know. I'll let Roger speak for himself here, and then we'll just jump in and make it a Donnybrook.
Pretty good roll up. Couple things. So there are several issues here, and one I don't disagree up front with what Josh is saying as far as some cronyism, some Paul Harvey to it, some backdoor dealings. I think we all accept that that's happening. That happens in every election. Not to say it's right or wrong or whatever. There's no doubt in my mind that this is not necessarily probably coming from the most pure place. I mean, what they publicly put out there was that they wanted to prevent a Hillary Clinton from happening. Okay. They didn't want outsiders coming in and just having this free agency where you can be a resident of the state for 60 days and boom, next thing you know, you're a U.S. senator for your state or for that state. There are two separate issues though, and it gets very, very murky because when Josh and I were going back and forth with this, and this is where it gets tough because we're both reading this stuff and, we've obviously got our ideas and opinions, but as you start digging into it and doing the research on it, we are arguing the same point we're also arguing about different issues. And when you start reading the news, at least like the Tennessean and stuff like that, it doesn't clearly draw this stuff out. There is a state of Tennessee law now that the governor did not sign, but in Tennessee, when the governor passes it back with no action, and I forget how many days it is or whatever, but it automatically becomes law. Basically, if nobody does anything, if the House and the Senate pass it, it goes to the governor. He doesn't sign it, sends it back for no action. I think it's like 60 days or something like that. It just becomes law. So there's a Tennessee law in general, and then you also had the bylaws of the Tennessee Republican Party. So I don't disagree with Josh on the, GOP rules changing 3 of the last 4, this and that, as far as voting. But what people fail to realize, and this is specifically with Ortegas and with Starbuck, he only voted once. Before they changed it to voting 3 of the last 4, it was 2 of the last 4. Neither one of them met that either. Now, I'll get to his or comment because that I haven't been able to find. So I would like to see some reference on it because I haven't been able to find the and or, and I could be totally off on that. If it says or, it's totally different. But the state of Tennessee, what they just passed here, which is SB 2616, and so again, there's 2 pieces of this. They basically amend it. In order to qualify as a candidate in a primary election for United States Senate or for the member of the United States House of Representatives, a person shall meet the residency requirements for the state senators and representatives contained in the Tennessee Constitution, which is basically a citizen of Tennessee for 3 years, resident in county for 1 year, qualified voter in legislative district. That's on the state side. The GOP and their bylaws can take that farther and say, okay, now we're going to say, we're going to change it from voting in the primary 2 or 4 years to 3 or 4 years. I think Robbie just voted in his first one, and Ortegas Morgan, she's never voted in any Tennessee primary. So that rule was in place, and barring Josh finding the or. I mean, again, I'd like, and it's tough. I'm not blaming him. I'm going through. I've got all the bylaws here, and this stuff is murky as heck. And there's probably a reason for that, right? They keep a lot of this stuff hidden where it's not necessarily plain as day. But for our listeners out there, there are two separate issues. And to be honest with you, I don't even know that the media is really tracking that there's two separate issues, because they don't meet the state requirement, not even the GOP requirement. Because from there, it basically says, okay, well, you know what? Each political party can do what they want to do. I do believe that this was changed. Again, it wasn't the purest move. I think a lot of this was changed because Ortega's jumped in. She's a high-profile name. She brings in a lot of money. She's got backing from Trump. But what you hear right now, or what I've been hearing, is that, because I think she's Jewish, right? If I'm not mistaken, but they're like, this is more of a Jared Kushner or Ivanka Trump thing. It's not really a Donald. He really doesn't care. So he kind of backed her, but she's a high-profile name. You know, she worked at the State Department. I think she was prior Navy, or maybe even currently in the Navy. All over Fox News. She came in. She disrupts that bounce, because they had like you, Josh said, there was like 16 or 17 people, maybe even more than that are running for it. And some of the folks that are also on the ballot are some old school Republicans that were probably pissed off. You know, how does this person come in, or whatever. So there's a couple of different issues there. You have the state issue. You have the GOP, you know, obviously the Republican side, they can set up their bylaws. The main reason I don't have an issue with this stuff is those are state and local legislatures that are elected directly by the people to govern their local election. I have no issues with that. You know, and Josh brings up, he's shaking his head. I know he's chomping at the bit. We're not in the middle of election cycle, not in the middle of election. Okay, so when does it start? I mean, so when's the cutoff? You know, give me a cutoff date. The people voted this. I mean, Josh wants to nationalize our elections and just have, you know, Biden and Kamala oversee everything. But where's the cutoff point? And you know what? It doesn't matter, because one of the three of us were actually registered and vote in Tennessee. I forgot about that too. I actually voted in Tennessee. Like I could actually run. But anyway, it's, if the people that are electing their local officials don't want that in place or whatever, that's up to them. I like local elections. I like having the people, and if they don't like it, they will vote those people out.
I was going to let Josh go ahead and respond, but Josh, if you can just hold your arguments, I'll go ahead and jump in here, because you are chomping at the bit. That's why I was like, I was just going to let it go. I was like, okay, Josh's going to jump in on this one. Look, I'll be. First of all, I hope that Morgan Ortegas and Robbie Starbuck don't just pull a Davy Crockett and say, you may all go to hell and I will go to Texas, you know, because they sure as hell might do that. You know, I haven't been following this real close. And I told Josh and Roger that earlier. I haven't been following it real close. It's not that I don't care. It's just, it doesn't impact me that much. And it probably should. That's probably my shortcoming. But I'll tell you this, I think that both Robbie Starbuck and Morgan Ortegas and whoever else, Hillary Clinton for that matter, moving into a district, like what does a representative from the House do? They represent the people of their district. So would you want like a sheriff in a northern Louisiana county coming in from LA? And I know this is not a national thing. That guy does not know the area, or girl, whatever. They don't know the area. They don't know the people. They're not familiar with what historically this particular district is all about. They're elected to represent the people of their district. In my opinion, they should know that district very well. I mean, I think that, you know, who knows what the founding fathers thought, or, you know, how they had it designed. But I mean, the House of Representatives, like, this is a small area representing. You are going to represent that particular area. And I think that, you know, House Representatives, many of them, you know, your AOCs, I could go down the list. I'll go with AOC for this one, have turned into representing the party with whom they affiliate rather than representing their particular district. And I think that's a shame. You know, I think that both Robbie Starbuck and Morgan Ortegas, both of them, if they would have run and one of them would have won, I think that they would not have represented that particular district as well as someone who's actually from there and has lived there for a long time. Not to say that somebody couldn't move in, live there for 5 years, and not represent the people well. That's possible. But I personally don't see that as the design. And I think it's a shame. So I'm not going to get into the laws and stuff like that because I haven't researched it as well as both of you guys have. I think it's kind of a shame that the representatives should be from the area, know the people, and know a lot of the people's names. The regular people whom they represent. But anyway, so Josh, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I don't really have a problem with them changing the rules because well, maybe I do. I just don't care. And I know that sounds bad and it sounds like I'm blowing y'all off. I'm not. I just haven't looked into that much. I can't follow everything. So Josh, I hope the anger has stayed. And I hope you're still worked up. So go ahead and why don't you Lincoln Douglas and rebut Roger's points there.
So Roger makes a couple of okay points. And you make a couple of okay points with your apathy. But so for Hillary Clinton moved to New York and was there however many months, and now she's a senator from New York. Well, if we stick with your logic, Roger, if the people voted her into that office, if the people voted for these, this SEC in Tennessee, right? They voted for them to make decisions to represent them. Well, then the people chose Hillary Clinton in New York. That makes them stupid. I'll give you that.
That's my point.
Nobody in their right mind would choose Hillary Clinton, except for those stupid people. So, and it kind of ties in with Luke's point, right? They're representing them. They're there to represent the people. Well, who gets to decide? Who gets to run? Apparently not the effing people. That choice was taken away from them. That choice was taken away from them by this entity. Yes, they are elected. So anything that happens in the future, it'd just be like, well, people elected them. People elected the idiots to Congress. You can't complain about Mark Kelly anymore because, hey, people elected him. People can't complain about Dan Crenshaw anymore because, hey, people elected him. He's a Republican. He's your party. People elected him. That's silly. That's absolutely silly. The people didn't get a choice in this one. The people didn't get a chance to decide who they wanted to represent them, whether they lived there for 2 years, whether they lived there for 20 years, whether they lived there for 40 years, because the Tennessee GOP decided that cronyism was going to be their chosen course of action. They were going to take that choice away from the people, let it go to the polls, and the people will tell you. It goes back to, the Emancipation Proclamation. And there was a question, when Lincoln was like, well, I don't know. This may not resonate. I don't know. But guess what? He said, the people will tell me. When the election comes, people will tell me whether I was right or wrong. So I don't understand why we changed the rules in the middle of the game. And if we allow that, and if we want that type of, if we accept that type of politics, and that's fine. But then we really can't complain about shit down the road after it happens. When people get in there and they make decisions that we don't agree with, well, hey, they were elected. So we just got to kind of deal with it. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
I don't think I ever said they can't complain. You said the people will tell me. Here's the other thing that people are just overlooking. That's the Republican primary. If the people will tell them, then guess what, Morgan? You can run as an independent, and the people will tell you if they want you to represent them. That's the rules for the GOP, just like the Democrats have their rules, and just like the state of Tennessee has their rules. And like you said with Hillary Clinton, the people voted in because that's what they wanted. That's my point. They didn't want, the GOP did not want that for Tennessee. So guess what? If the people will tell them, and Josh is typing, that's why the GOP is garbage. And you know what? We can argue. Well, I don't even argue that. I mean, we had our, we know the deal. Both parties are very similar in how they operate. But if the people will tell you, then run it as an independent. They're just saying that, hey, if you're going to run as part of my party and get our funding, these are the rules you're going to meet. And both of their rules, I mean, both of them, they don't even come close to this thing. I would have to look at the or thing because, again, I haven't been able to find it, and I've been digging through crap and this and that. I see stuff in the newspaper, but I haven't actually been able to find it in the bylaws, and that will be interesting because if it does say or, it's obviously a bigger difference. Like Josh mentioned, it did get appealed. I think both of them, or all three, or three of them, all three of them lost. I think one of them, I think it was like 13-3 basically across, and I'm not sure if the third one actually, it may have been 16-1 or something like that, because they didn't even meet the state requirements initially. So you know what? I mean, the bottom line is this: we can agree to disagree on it. I have no problems with local voters handling their local elections however they deem fit, however they deem necessary. If they want to be dumb enough to allow transplants to come in like Hillary Clinton and be your state senator, rock and roll, man. You do that. Tennessee made the decision not to do that. As far as, and with Ortega's, she didn't even meet the original requirement. Neither did Robbie. Didn't meet that. Now, again, minus the or. So again, I'll leave that up for debate, and I'll go look at that myself to see if I can find that. But just through the state, they didn't meet the original requirement. They appealed it. They lost. And you know what? That's just GOP then. Hey, if the people will tell me, and this is the last thing I'll say on it again, if the people will tell me, then you know what? Both of them can run as independents, and the people will tell them if they want to. Because here's the other thing, and this is why I like the local elections like this. It's different on a national level. Okay. I don't know we ever, and y'all can argue this, I don't know we'll ever have an independent, a true independent win on a national level. Okay. An independent can win on a local level. That can happen. In a District 5 in Tennessee, an independent can win that. And I'm convinced that with most states in the middle, an independent can win that. It doesn't have to be left or right. That's just the rules of the Republican Party. So I'll kick it back to you. I don't know, Luke or Josh or whoever wants to retort.
Well, Josh, do you have? I think you have more to say. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that this is one of the reasons why the GOP, writ large, has the problem that they have. They've allowed the fracture to occur. You have two Republican parties right now. You have the old guard. You've got the Mitch McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams, and then you have the younger crowd. And I hate saying this dude's name, but you have the Crenshaws, who is complete garbage, right? And then you have the other folks that are a little bit younger, the Tom Cottons, and right now, and then you had the great disruptor come in 2016 and basically turn the party on its head, and they've had an identity crisis ever since, full on. They had it. It started long before Trump. Trump was just a guy who came in and just he pulled the curtain back on everything. And when you have this level of cronyism on full display, and you have everybody be like, "Well, that's just how you do business." Well, it's just, if that's how they want to run it, that's how they can run it. This old guard needs to be voted the F out. These dudes need to go home, pack their shit, and leave. That's just the bottom line. We don't need Mitch McConnell anymore. We don't need all of these old dudes running around, still running the party like it's 1970. Those days are over. Then this kind of segues into my next, the DeSantis Disney issue. For 30 years, 40 years, the GOP has been playing defense, and they've been doing a shitty job at defense. We've gotten our ass handed to us in this culture war for 4 decades, and probably even longer. And when you got guys like, the Tennessee GOP who are, cutting out the young blood, cutting out the up and comers, cutting out the folks who are actually going to get the support from, those younger Republicans out there, it's absolute complete bullshit. And they're setting everybody up for failure down the road by continuing this old blood. It's just, anyway. So I'm going to throw it over to Luke. He can give us some thoughts on it if he's got any more. But what I really want to ask Luke is, so the other day we were talking about DeSantis and Disney, and I think maybe in a couple of days you've you've evolved in your view, and I want to ask you, do you agree And if so, why? If not, why? With the way DeSantis handled Disney, with them coming out against the bill labeled "Don't Say Gay," which is actually the parental rights bill.
Okay, so you're asking me if I agree or disagree about Disney coming out against that bill? Is that what you're asking?
No, do you agree with the way DeSantis handled it by stripping them of the Reedy Creek Improvement Act, which basically allowed them to operate as their own city?
Well, as we discussed earlier, man, I totally understand where you're coming from. And that's why I've always said on this thing, I am 70% for DeSantis doing that, and I am 30% against. And it may even be, more like, we'll leave it at 70-30 because I can't do math. We'll leave it at 70-30. That's easy. I'm 70% for it because of exactly what Josh has said. We have to, unfortunately, we live in a time where we have no choice but to play their game. It's the world we live in now. I mean, if you look at what happened with Hobby Lobby, with Chick-fil-A in Chicago, Obama and Lois Lerner, I think it was Lois Lerner, right? That went after the conservative 501c3s. I mean, what are we going to do? Just sit back and do nothing when these corporations, which I don't think it's changed. Corporations are, considered individuals who have a freedom of speech. They can speak out, but when they're punished because they go against, whatever party is in control at the time, is that right or wrong? If the government is the one that's punishing them. Now, to break it down, I have less of a problem if, Apache Junction, Arizona, a strip club moves in there and the city or however they're governed decides we don't want this strip club in there. It doesn't represent our values. We are changing the zoning law so you can no longer be within the city limits. I have less of a problem with that. I still kind of have a problem with it because it's the government stepping in and not letting the market or the consumers sort it out. But again, it's local, so I don't have a problem with that. I have less of a problem with DeSantis doing this to Disney because it's at the state level. I have a huge problem when the federal government steps in and does something vis-a-vis the Lois Lerner going after the conservative 501c3s at the behest of Obama. So I am 70% for it. But again, if you're listening to me talk, it's like I'm 30% against it because that's the government stepping in, and I never like that. And it's, we've been seeing people flip flop in real time lately. Robert Reich, I'm not changing the subject. We'll stay on Disney, but Robert Reich talking about Elon Musk and freedom of speech taking over Twitter and stuff like that. And it's time for 230 overhaul. I mean, whereas less than 2 years ago, people were just saying the exact opposite. It's like, and now we've got the government. A state government, which again, this is the 30% talking, 30% against. We got a state government coming in and saying, well, we're taking away a tax abatement. We're going to tax you more. And conservatives are like, hell yeah, tax Disney. Hell yeah. It's like, what? What were you guys saying just 18 months ago? I mean, that's kind of what I get hung up on. And Josh, man, it's we kind of all, three of us, I guess, or maybe two of us, Roger's pure as the wind-driven snow, do a little soul search. And it's like, man, okay, where do we stand on this stuff? It's like where we got to, figure out exactly where to draw the line and where not to. And being 70-30 is kind of wishy-washy, in my opinion. It's like you got to be 100% on a lot of things in life. But, that's just not the world we live in. I kind of dance around your point there, Josh. So, yeah, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that DeSantis is doing that, and it feels like we're winning. It feels good, for Elon to come in there and take over Twitter. That feels really good for now. But I just got to be careful in my own mind that I stay consistent on my views on a lot of these things. So, Roger, what do you think about? Same thing. I'll kick it straight to you. Same question that Josh asked me. What are your stances on that?
So I think you hit it on the head. It's the consistency. And for the listeners out there, Luke touched base on it. I mean, we, between the three of us, I'd probably say 90% of our texts. Well, I take that back. Luke just started learning to do GIFs. So we got like 40% of them are gifts right now. But before that, 90% of our text was, they're pretty ridiculous. They are extremes because we're trying to find where that limit is, right? Where do you draw that line? And once we get to the line, it's like, okay, what can we do to make the individual cross that line or move that line or whatever? So it goes back to what Luke said. It's all about consistency. Here's why I do not have a problem with what DeSantis did and trying to remain consistent if it was a Democrat governor. So you cannot create a law targeting generally, right? Targeting a specific entity or individual, which means Congress can't make a law targeting Elon Musk. Okay. Generally, you just can't do it. One, Disney brought themselves in, and so a little bit different. Businesses, just stay out of the politics, unless that is your business, especially what they do. Just stay out of the politics. There was no reason. What bothers me with Disney is they weren't even on the right. Well, I take that back. Not the right side. They didn't even take an educated stance on it. They used what Josh threw out there, that the left, throughout the "don't say gay" versus the actual bill's name, right? And then they back this, and we're going to fight. It was like, you didn't even take an educated stance on it, to the point that I don't even know if you actually read the bill. Because like we've argued in previous episodes, it doesn't say anything about that. But the main reason that I don't have an issue with it is he did not target and punish an individual company. What he did was say that you are going to have to go through these same processes as every other business in the state of Florida. So he removed a special category for them, right? He removed tax provisions for them. He removed special clauses they had for them because, and Josh probably knows more about this than we do, but from my understanding with one, if you ever start looking up like the Reedy Creek, I mean, this was done, like, this was dirty as all get out. Okay, that the way Walt Disney World was built, I mean, it was dirty. They were talking about front businesses. I mean, this thing, there was nothing snow white pure about this thing. All right. So, our folks can get out there and do a little bit of gurgling on it. And I know it goes into a little bit of history or whatever, but nothing pure about any of that. And they basically created their own, they were allowed to create their own form of government, county government. So it takes care of everything from taxes to building codes, to emergency services, roads. And Disney can basically do what they want within those areas. I don't know, and Josh can touch base on it. I don't know. Well, I know now it sunsets. I guess previously it was just permanent. I mean, is that the case? You always had the Reedy Creek improvement. So
yeah, and you're just going to have it.
Okay. And so DeSantis basically said, no, we're actually going to treat you like every other business in the state of Florida, where you're going to have to, answer and abide by city rules and regulations, county rules and regulations, state rules and regulations. What makes it tough, the part that makes it tough, is what Luke said about the government stepping in. So this is where I don't know where the fine line is, because I am less concerned about the smallest forms of government stepping in, because as a voter in my town, I have much more say. My voice holds much more weight here locally. Okay, in my town of Queen Creek, with the mayor, whether it's town council, whatever, I'm convinced that myself and a handful of other folks can make a difference in our election. Obviously, as you go up that ladder, it becomes, that doesn't happen. You don't have as much influence. And so I do have a problem with the government overstepping there. But, all in all, because of the way it's done and the way that it's not punishing Disney, it's like, hey, we're just making you live by the same laws that everybody else does. Now, and I asked Josh this because he's more familiar with it, but, I know there's some issues there with revenue and who's got to cover what, and they can apply for it again. So maybe it's just a PR stunt, Josh. I mean, is it something that you think that, DeSantis signs this thing with the intent that, hey, what is it, 2023, that they just end up granting it to them again? Maybe you can go into some of the money issues of it, because basically, from what I understand, is the city and the county or county, basically, they have to provide all those services. So I don't know. I guess they just levy a tax on Disney then, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the big issue right now is Disney's carrying the Reedy Creek Improvement Act's carrying about a $1 billion debt. And so, people are afraid that the county is going to absorb that debt, when Reedy Creek Improvement Act goes away on 1 June of 2023. Yeah, that's the effective date of its disillusion. So, people are up in arms about that. They have a year to figure it out, first, and two, it's not like Disney's not going to pay taxes after the Reedy Creek Improvement Act goes away. Disney pays, well, up to now they were paying themselves a lot of taxes. They were paying hundreds of millions of dollars of taxes. So it's not like those taxes it's not like that tax revenue just disappears, right? That tax revenue is still going to be there. It's just now it's going to go to the county, the county government. And then the county government, they're going to be responsible for, policing. They're going to be responsible for, road maintenance and stuff like that. The big thing where Disney is really going to hurt on this is time it takes to get things done, right? Because everybody knows nothing happens quickly. And so Disney had their 25,000 acre, complex that they were allowed to do whatever on. If they wanted to build a new park, they went and built a new park. They didn't have to do anything to build it. They did not have, all they did was reach over, to the guy who sits at the desk next to him, who's, the Reedy Creek Improvement guy, and was like, hey, we're doing this. They rubber stamp it and they go. And guess what's going to happen now? Environmental impact studies, all those things that come with building. And tell you right now, man, it's like North Carolina. You think the red-cockaded woodpecker, really, jink things up? Wait until you get the, the yellow-bellied tree frog out there and you find one of those. Guess what, Disney? Your new park, your new park's not going in. So that part, Disney's really, really gonna, hurt on that part. Now, could they reapply for it and get it back? Absolutely. Could they reapply for it and get parts of it back? Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as DeSantis remains the governor, which I don't know that Charlie Crist is going to beat him. Chris is already the governor one time. He wasn't very popular. Nikki Fried is out there. She's actually the Secretary of Agriculture for Florida right now, but she never tweets about it. She always tweets about Ron DeSantis. Almost every tweet is about Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis never tweets about her. I think she just secretly wants to date him. And that's that. She's not going to be the new governor. But overall, when it comes to this, and I ran on it, and I was very much, I don't believe in big government. I don't believe government should be involved in 99% of the things that they're involved in. But I don't see any other choice at this point. Like I don't, the issues that Luke brought up, talking about Chick-fil-A, talking about the IRS targeting conservative 501(c)(3)s, the Obama administration targeting Hobby Lobby and, the Little Sisters of the Poor. I mean, these assholes went after the nuns. They went after the nuns. I mean, what kind of asshole do you have to be to go after the nuns? Take a look at California Bill AB 979. All right, we're talking about federal. Let's go back down to the state level. California passed a bill. It is now law that every California headquartered company has at least one director on their board who is from an underrepresented community defined as, quote, an individual who self-identifies as Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, Native American, Native Hawaiian, or Alaska Native, or who self-identifies as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender.
So I think the Supreme Court just struck that down like 2 weeks ago.
Did they? Good.
Yeah, I'm almost it was either a federal judge or the Supreme Court just struck it down like 2-3 weeks ago.
Good. They should have. But how long was that actually a law? And how many companies
years
had to reconfigure? Yeah, how many companies had to reconfigure their boards to go out and hire somebody who met one of these criteria? This is not new. You go back and look how, unions have been around. How long have unions been a political tool of the left? Basically ever since they came on the scene. Unions are nothing more than legal organized crime. That's all they are. And so you got companies out there, and I was listening to Shapiro here a couple of days ago, and I forget the name of the book, or no, it was The Age of Enlightenment. I forget the author, but he talks about how companies now have chief diversity officers and diversity compliance officers, and Ben Shapiro called them they're nothing more than 21st century commissars, and that's exactly what they are. And companies, the government has been cudgeling private businesses to do their bidding. And again, I throw this back. Why we are where we are right now is because of the damn GOP and their inaction. They're absolute inaction. They're always quick to thump their chest and then turn around and be like, "Oh, we're gonna investigate this. We're gonna do something about it." And then when we get control of all, of the executive branch and the legislative branch, they don't do shit. They don't do anything. McConnell and Graham and them, they get up there, they thump their chest, offer big words, and then the news cycle moves on to something else, and that's it. If they would do what they're designed to do, which is make money and not wade into the political sphere, then we could remain at net zero in a neutral position. But that's not good enough for the left. The left has pushed corporations time and time again. They continue to push them because it's not good enough just to leave people alone and let them do their thing. They've demanded, pick your topic of the day. They've demanded, well, what is your stance on same-sex marriage? What's your opinion of Donald Trump? Do you support Ukraine? Do you denounce Putin? What's your vaccine status? It's like, hey, man, I'm just over here trying to sell some widgets. I'm trying to sell some tacos. I'm trying to sell some chicken sandwiches. I don't give a shit about any of that. Well, that's not good enough. And a lot of these corporations, why all these corporations are woke. It's not, a lot of them aren't woke because they want to be. They're woke because they knew that if they went against the left, they were going to have the left controlled media in their face, costing them revenue, costing them customers, costing them their bottom line. And they knew that the GOP, nobody on the right was going to be there to support them, because they're absent every time you turn around. So there was no incentive to remain neutral because they knew nobody on the right was going to support them. So why just go ahead and bend the knee and be done with it? And so there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there who are like, no, we can't do this. This is wrong. And there's a couple, and I forget one dude on Twitter. He's a blue check mark guy on the right, and he was laying into DeSantis. And again, I was listening to Shapiro, and it's like he explained it, man. Mutually assured destruction is a thing. It's a necessary thing. Why didn't we go to war with Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis? Because of mutually assured destruction. Why didn't we go to war with Russia during Operation Able Archer in 1983? Because mutually assured destruction is a thing. And what does it do? It's a deterrent. When the left knows that we're not going to do anything, there is no mutually assured destruction. There is no deterrent. I don't want government involved in it. I want government out of it 100%. But we've got to get back to neutral before we can have that.
But here's the problem with Shapiro's argument, and I listened to the exact same episode, and I agree with. I understand it says 70%. I'm with you, 70%, but it ain't gonna get back to neutral. It's just not, because what if Abigail Disney, decides that she's gonna go marry she's hanging out at a drag party and she meets Madison Cawthorn there at the drag party, and they fall madly and deeply in love. And now she's a, dyed in the wool, MAGA, red hat wearing, conservative, whatever. Then Disney is like, oh, well, now are they in Ron DeSantis's good graces? Is it good doggy gets a treat, bad doggy gets a slap on the nose? It's like, look, I'm with you. It's just, this is the world we live in now, and it's not going back to what it used to be. I agree with everything. My tone makes it sound like I disagree with you. I don't. I do agree with you. Unfortunately, everyone does have to, the political parties do have to get involved, because at the end of the day, they're the ones in power, right? Well, if corporations are people, they should be the ones in power, right? I mean, the people are the ones in power, not the politicians. But unfortunately, it's the world we live in, man. Now I'm getting worked up. I need Roger to bring me back down to earth here. Josh, I agree with you. I just think it's a damn shame. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a damn shame.
It is an absolute damn shame. And you know what? If we can't get back to neutral, then that's fine. Then we have the mutually assured destruction. And at the end, at the end of the day, it can't continue like it is right now. DeSantis is the very first one in a very long time that actually stood up and did something about it.
And maybe more of these people being corporations, athletes, movie stars, whatever, will take the wisdom of Michael Jordan and be like, hey, man, why don't you speak out against these things? We assume you're a Democrat because you're black. And he's like, hey, Republicans buy sneakers too. It's like, dude, maybe everyone will get back on the same page, dude. It ain't about, it's about your bottom line. That's what it's about. And think how great Disney could do if they would just walk that line. There's smart people over there. There's smart people that can totally walk the line, just like Jordan did. Now I'm talking about Jordan. Roger's getting excited. I can tell.
Well, and on the business aspect of it, you don't even have to walk the line. There's a difference between being woke and organizational or company culture. Okay. Your business can have ethics. Your business can have culture. Your business can have things that it stands up for, that is the core of who you are and what you represent and the product that you put out. That I have no issues with. Okay. You see it with a lot of veteran-owned businesses. That's probably one of the greatest or one of the first examples, biggest examples that comes to my mind. The problem is when, here's the popular movement now. And I think like Josh said was like, well, because the left's on board with it. The Democrats are on board with it. So now I got to be on board with it. And then you run into what Luke says when, who knows what happens when the owners down the road meet and get married and have kids. And now it's gone from left to right, and you support it, do you not support it? And that's just not the way to do business. You can have company organizational culture, things that you stand for, things that your business is founded upon, and that's what you stick with. No more, no less. And, Luke said it best when he was talking about the bottom dollar. I mean, that is what business is about. Don't get me wrong. We all love to donate to charities. Everybody wants to give 10% of the proceeds to saving rainforests and this and that. Hey, guess what? If you're broke and you're out of business, there will be no charities. Oh, okay. I give credit. Josh said it first. They're correcting me here. So, but that's the fact. If you're not in business, if you're not making money, there will be no charitable contributions. That doesn't happen, right? And Josh has brought up a great point that we were talking about earlier with the big news this week was obviously Elon Musk. To close up the last piece, the bottom line is I think it's a very easy line to walk because you just don't walk the line. You do the Jordan theory. Hey man, I play basketball and I have a business to run. Now, me personally, on the side, aside from that, he wants to have his own personal opinions and get involved in politics, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I can live with that. The minute that his brand becomes a part of that, that's where I have the issue. Twitter, Elon Musk, and I'll kick this to Josh here in a second. So the left is obviously having a meltdown. And I don't know, kind of going back to what both these guys have been saying, I don't even know, so the left and the right, Democrats and Republicans, do they hate corporations now? They like corporations. They flip-flopped. They hate billionaires. They love billionaires. They kind of flip-flopped on that. I'll tell you with Elon Musk, obviously with what we've seen him tweet and the businesses that he's run, that's about my extent of Elon Musk knowledge. I have no idea what type of person he is as far as I don't follow his politics and this and that. All I would say on the right is everybody's been so quick to jump on those coattails, and it's like, you might want to wait a second because just like the left has had the flip-flop a lot over the last couple weeks, the right may find themselves flip-flopping again here in the next couple weeks, couple months, depending on what Elon Musk rolls out. What people don't realize, and this is what we were just saying, and this is what Twitter has realized as far as his board, not even his board, because the board don't even hold any damn shares. It's Jack owns shares and everybody else owns like 0.04% or whatever it is. Elizabeth Warren's got more Indian DNA in her than with the board, as far as what they own is Twitter stock. But Twitter knew, money wise, they weren't profitable. They weren't making money. I think off their IPO, I don't think they've ever hit the same price that they IPO'd at, their stock. And so they knew with their current model, they were not going to hit the level of funding or the level of revenue profit that Elon Musk was offering. It was a pure business decision. And now the Twitter employees are having these meltdowns from everything you read on Twitter, go figure. But, I can't do the company culture and Elon Musk and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, hey, you're an employee and you don't understand that, it's not about, what you believe and your beliefs and your, your foundations and this and that. It's or your religion or whatever. Hey, it's a business and they need to make money. And the shareholders came back and said, yeah, we are not profitable or won't be as profitable with our current model, nor will they see it in the foreseeable future, as opposed to what Elon Musk is offering them now. So they made the board and the shareholders made a business decision and said, yes, we're going to do that. And, it was funny because these people get angry. You can't even make this stuff up. So the Twitter employees are pissed off. They're quitting. They're enraged and they're flipping out and they say, I'm quitting Twitter. And they go down the elevator and they go out to the garage and they get in their Tesla and they drive off. The Tesla that Elon Musk owns, the company for. So, Josh, what's your take on the whole Twitter thing? What do you think about Elon Musk? What actions do you think he takes? And is the right or the conservatives and the Republicans, are they jumping on those coattails, too fast?
So a couple questions there. I'll address the coattails one first. Yes, I think the right is hitching their cart to that horse a little too soon. He ain't out of the barn yet. All I know about Elon Musk and his politics, I listened to his podcast with Rogan, where they blaze some of the devil's lettuce, and again, man, you got. Talking about Joe Rogan again, I think Joe Rogan should be the moderator for presidential debates. It's 3 hours straight. You're sitting down and you're getting asked questions, and it's the Lincoln Douglas format. So that's all I know about Elon's politics. Is Elon conservative? No. Is he conservative on some things? Yes. Is he conservative on everything? No, absolutely not. And that's fine. And that's good, right? Because that means he approaches everything from, two sides. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He's much more of a libertarian, which I'm shifting that way myself on a lot of things.
Gary Johnson.
God, Gary Johnson's such an idiot.
What is Aleppo?
But so yes, I think they are hitching their cart to that horse a little too early. Who knows what Elon's going to roll out for Twitter? I do know, he tweeted today. He said a social media platform silencing a major news organization publishing a story that was true is a little bit, basically a little bit ridiculous. I'm paraphrasing there. So, I do think he is a big believer in free speech. And so that in itself, if that is all Elon Musk does for Twitter is stop the shadow banning, stop the banning of, accounts that he doesn't, that he doesn't politically agree with, then I think this entire thing was good. Right. I think this, the entire news cycle, like that in itself is good because that, that gets us to, one step closer back to center, which is, I think we all agree that's where we need to be. Whether I agree with Luke, I don't think we'll ever get back there, but, the closer we can get to it, the better. As far as the meltdown at Twitter's chief lawyer was on video actually crying at Twitter headquarters yesterday. A grown ass woman crying because a billionaire bought their company and she just made a whole bunch of money. I can't. It's absolutely insane. And you're right. It's a business. Businesses. Why do you start a business? You start a business to make money. You start a business with the hope one day that you grow big enough that somebody comes in and buys you. That one of these they come in and they buy you and you make a hell of a lot of money. And then you go, either you start another business or you go lay on a beach in Mexico somewhere drinking umbrella drinks for the rest of your life. Right. I mean, that's why you start a business. If you start a business to be poor, well, then you probably shouldn't start that business in the first place. as far as the left and everybody freaking out, the same people who in 2020, when they banned Trump, from being on the platform, and a couple others, and everybody on the left was like, well, if you don't like Twitter, you can go make your own platform, and Twitter is a private business and they can do what they want. I can tell you, from seeing their reactions over the last couple of days, they are not handling Twitter being a private business and doing what they want very well. They have not handled that well at all. They have. It goes back to I'm telling you, man, it goes back to the mask and the vaccines. There are people out there, and Twitter is not representative of the country, writ large. Twitter is a special, Twitter is like Mayberry on acid. I compare it a lot to like Bisbee, Arizona. Man, it's just an eclectic special place. You've got some good people in there, and you got some people who the world probably be kind of better off without, if we're being honest here. So the whole Twitter thing, it can go away. It can stay at Elon, dude. He may delete that shit tomorrow. Like Twitter may just shut down tomorrow and be gone. Apps out of the app store. And that would be okay too. But I think, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't think it's going to change that much. I don't think, I don't think Elon Musk is going to change that much. Some of the people on the left who said that they were, going to delete their account if Elon bought Twitter. Those are the same people who said they were going to Canada if Trump won. Our favorite person, one of our favorite persons, Sean King, aka Martin Luther Cream, aka Malcolm X. He said he was deleting his account. He didn't last 24 hours. He's back on Twitter. So it's whatever. It's fun right now because it's, we're watching the left, have mental breakdowns over, some African American billionaire, buying a social media company, and they're upset about it. Whatever. But yeah, man, I'm not hitching my my cart to the, Elon Musk is going to be the savior of conservatives just yet. I want to see this movie play out a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you. But, the one thing with Elon Musk is, well, first of all, I wholeheartedly believe that if social media like we have it now would have been around in the late 1930s and 1940s, Howard Hughes would be Elon Musk of those days. So Howard Hughes was an interesting cat, man. Elon Musk is an interesting cat. Are they all there like the rest of us are? Absolutely not. It's well known Elon Musk is on the spectrum. It's fine, man. He's doing just fine on the spectrum. But this guy has cracked the code on making a ton of money working with governments, specifically the U.S. government. SpaceX, Tesla, probably Starlink as well. None of those things would exist without him working very closely with the U.S. government. And Josh is like, all billionaires are a little eccentric. That is absolutely true. I mean, in my experience, at least, I've only personally met and got to know one, and a little eccentric. Great people, but a little bit different than the rest of us. So I think that we're going to see if Elon Musk gets his way, I think we're going to see some changes with respect to Twitter. I think that he'll be contracting with the U.S. government quite a bit on epidemiology studies. A lot of people don't know that a lot of these role-playing games you play online, Red Dead, Warcraft, EverQuest, stuff like that, they work very closely hand in hand with the CDC with epidemiology studies. And they get big grants to do that. So I think that, I think one of the things that Elon will do, I think it might have been our boy Ben Shapiro. We'll bring Ben Shapiro along one of these days. His podcast will make it big like C3, but we keep quoting him. I think he he said today that I think, and he heard this somewhere else too, is I think one of the considerations is charging people to be verified. So you pay a little fee, you get your blue check mark, and that way everybody knows who paid for Twitter and who didn't. He says he's going to get away from an advertising model. and more of a subscription model, we'll see how that works. And it's a little substacky there. I don't know. I will see. But it's exciting. To me, it's exciting. The tech world is the problem I have with the tech world. One of the many problems is that they're all about being a disruptor. They want disruptors to cause change, radical change within an industry. That's how all of these companies got as rich as they are. They basically put out disruptive technology or disruptive situations that they profited off of. Elon Musk is a disruptor. This whole thing with him buying Twitter is a disruptive event in the technology sector. Everyone should be excited about this. And I think that super smart people, who are, hedge funds and stuff, I think they're watching this real close to see how it plays out, because it's an exciting time, man. I may not be saying that if it was Jeff Bezos buying Twitter, but since it's Elon Musk, I think it's great, man. I think it's great. But I'm taking like the Joker from The Dark Knight lately. I'm thinking more and more like him. I just want to watch the world burn lately. I mean, Roger's rolling his eyes. I'll kick it back to Roger real quick. I think that was all I had on Musk for now. I think you guys covered the meltdowns and just the duplicitous thinking, just so cognitively dissonant. These people do not understand what they're saying.
Did you see Jeff Bezos' tweet today talking about like, well, I wonder how much influence China has? And like, are you serious? Like, really? And then he deleted it, right? Like, dude, you knew you were wrong. That's the thing, is everybody, all these folks on the left, how can you let this, even Jen Psaki, anytime you have one individual, a billionaire control social media and yada, yada, yada. I don't remember seeing all this outrage when Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. I mean, I don't remember seeing any of that stuff. And like Luke said, now everybody wants to take a look at Section 230 again, which is something that, for our longtime listeners out there know that we've been talking about for 2 years now, as far as what they can and can't do. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg and all these guys. I mean, it's like, come on. And it's funny because I don't even want to mention his name, but some of these folks that Luke had mentioned, or that Luke mentioned, talking about, what do you want a billionaire to run, this and that? Well, who else is going to run or own Twitter? A poor person? A homeless person? I mean, who else runs these businesses? Like, they don't even make sense. And this came from a former labor secretary. Okay. And I seriously, of course, that's the problem with Twitter, right? Twitter is just somewhere you go throw up and you just don't have to respond or whatever. But it's like, okay, so seriously, a serious conversation, like, okay, you don't want these people doing, well, who do you think is going to run these companies? You're not doing it. I mean, dude, it's just incredible. And then you get Bezos jumping in. I'm like, so you don't think that China has any dealings with Amazon at all? I mean, it's crazy. And yeah, he sent out a tweet. Billionaire Jeff Bezos' Washington Post marks a fascinating cultural transition in America. And then when Elon Musk, same Business Insider, right? Same account here. Elon Musk's attempt to buy Twitter represents a chilling new threat. Billionaire trolls taking over social media. Dude, you can't even make this stuff up. It's like it's flip-flopping, and I get it. Everybody does it. Both sides do it politically, but so close. It's just literally like, again, that's what we started off with. I don't know if are we for corporations, against corporations, for billionaires, against billionaires. I mean, all this stuff it's nuts, man. It's crazy. What I'm interested in, and we've said this before, that I was kind of disappointed during, over the last couple of years, because I really expected private industry to step up and create a competitor. We saw Parler come and go. Truth Social, I don't even think came. They're there. I don't think they're doing anything. MeWe came up for a little while. Gab came up for a little while. There's a lot of competition out there, and a lot of this stuff. I mean, for me personally, I can't speak for other users out there, but for me, my main issue was it just didn't work. I mean, here's the thing, and I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, pretty good with resources and this and that. It's like, hey, you're going to have 150 million users or whatever that number is. Make sure your servers can hold the load, because I tell you what, don't pimp a platform if I got to get on there and wait 3 months to be able to get my log on or a login. That ain't going to happen. I ain't going to wait. Same thing with Parler, right? You knew issues were going to come up, and then, hey, in this business, your server goes down over 24 hours, they've gone to something else. So I'll be interested to see if the left comes up with anything, because you get a lot of billionaires that are, very quote unquote progressive. So it makes me wonder, hey, one of these players out there, I mean, they're going to put their money where their mouth is, maybe help fund another, Truth Social type thing that just caters to the left. And to be honest with you, I'm with Josh. Don't hook your horse up to that cart yet. I'm kind of curious just to see how it all plays out. I want to see what Elon Musk does with this thing. But what really pisses me off about the whole thing more than anything is, I've always been on Twitter because I like following the individual journalists and their reporting. And right now, every 9 out of 10 tweets is Elon Musk or somebody melting down over him buying Twitter. And I'm like, hey, there's actually a lot of good journalism that's going on out there. There's a lot of things in the news that are going on out there that I normally get off Twitter that I haven't gotten in a couple of days. And a matter of fact, I'm not even on it as much right now because everything is Elon Musk. I think the guy's done great things. He's used a lot of government help. I think that is, I haven't crunched the numbers and I can't go in to say what he does and doesn't own and the type of assistance that he's received. But in my mind, Josh is like, we've been carrying the C3 account. Funny. But in my mind, he is kind of the relationship you want to have with private entities, commercial organizations, and the government. They should be there to facilitate them, each other. You subsidize when it's necessary. They grow, they become successful. You hire a lot of employees, you pay more taxes, government gets their money back, that type of stuff. But that's the main problem that I have on the Twitter thing. I'll be curious to see where it goes. And my main issue is I'm not seeing any, news stories, independent news stories that normally I track. On to something else real quick. And I guess we can go around the horn here one more time with a couple of things. Josh and I have been talking about this, going back and forth. Oh yeah. Talking about, Luke saying, we had a big copyright win against Google, like the machine, right? Because one of the big things, certain things keep me up at night. Like I don't want to be sued, because one, C3 makes no money. The first time we made any money, Josh went off to some wedding and got hammered. The next time we made some money, we had to go buy Luke a laptop. So we are officially broke. We are, a not-for-profit charity, and I don't want to be sued for something that we don't even have. So I don't even know if you can sue into like negative. I mean, can you be sued into a negative? Like, I guess you can be, because you just be sued for everything you ever make, right?
So, yeah, that they put a lien against your assets.
Yeah. Well, good thing is I don't have any of those either. So, I guess it'll just be, whatever VA disability that I get from here on out for the rest of my life.
How dedicated we are to our audience. We are putting ourselves out there, risking everything for you 7 listeners. So, thanks for sticking with us.
Well, at this point in the podcast YouTube, we're about 1 hour and 28 minutes. We're probably down to 2 right now, if that. And it's probably your dad, be quite honest with you. So thanks for continuing to listen. But anyway, Luke came up with some cover art, and one of the things that keep me up at night is the copyright stuff. And generally speaking, the way I understand things is you can pretty much take any photo, and as long as you're making a meme out of it, you're legit. I just can't take a photo and use it by itself that somebody else has taken, the AP or whatever. But if I take it, modify it, turn it into a meme, it becomes fair use. And Luke had I think it was our last cover art for episode 83 with the whole Wheel of Fortune thing, how good of an American are you or whatever. And we couldn't run an ad on it. And so Google gave us the thing. I tried to resubmit 3 or 4 times. I kept saying copyright infringement. I filed an appeal and was notified about an hour or 2 before this show that we won the appeal. We did not infringe any copyright laws or any copyrighted work. And, I guess the sad thing is it was like 2 episodes ago. So now we no longer need the ad. So whatever. But that's, for C3, that was a big win for us. But one thing I do want to touch on, kind of, back to a little bit of politics, elections coming up. And Josh, I'll throw this at you. Here's what scares me. Okay. And this is what I do like what McConnell said when he said, hey, we have to win first. You have to win, but you also have to have a plan. And Josh is beat this to death. That's part of the Republicans' problem. Like look at what happened with Obamacare. We had years, right? We had years to come up with an alternative. We had years to come up with another plan. You finally get your shot because you know what's coming around. And what do we do with it? you know what? Yeah, I didn't really have anything ready to take its place. And one thing that I've seen about voters, especially a lot of the independents, is they look at that and like, hey man, you have to. And I guess it's from our upbringing. Okay, you have a problem. Well, have a solution. You had 8 years to come up with a solution, and you never came up with a solution. So here's what scares me coming up with this midterm. So historically, right, when you have and they say, it's actually kind of funny because when you say historically, it's actually just recent history, last couple of decades, not necessarily going all the way back. But when you look at when the president and Congress are of the same party during that first term, that midterm is usually a bloodbath, okay, for the party that's in power. And right now, everybody, it seems like even the left. I mean, CBS went out and already hired Mick Mulvaney, okay, because they want access to the Republican side of things, during this red tide that's coming through. And don't get me wrong, I do believe there is going to be a red wave, tide, ripple. I'm not sure how big it is yet, but I kind of want to get Josh's thoughts. Like, do you think this is a ripple? Do you think this is a tide? Do you think this is a wave? Because one thing that concerns me is this is not a national election. These are local, right? Now, there's obviously national level implications, okay, as far as potentially new Supreme Court justices, the balance of power in Congress, the Senate, the House. Does Joe Biden become more of a lame duck president during his last 2 years than what he's already been during the first two? So there's a lot of national level issues, and there'll be some national level impact. But when you actually look at the voting, it's done locally. And Republican and Democrat, I mean, Congress has an approval rating of like what, 8? I mean, didn't they say like the cockroach has a higher approval rating than Congress does? Like, no kidding. But that's Congress collectively. When you look individually at individual precincts, individual districts, individual states, the numbers tend to be a lot higher. So I guess, Josh, what worries me is that, we're all, looking at Biden sucks, or let's go Brandon or whatever, or his failures, put it that way. But Biden's not on the ballot. Indirectly, I guess you can say he is, but he's not on the ballot. That's not going to be the name that's on there. So do you think the Republicans, they've already chalked up to this red wave that's coming through, or do you think it's may not be as big as what they believe it to be?
Well, I think for starters, everyone needs to to take in when Obama said don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. I think Republicans need to take that at heart for their party, right? Don't ever estimate the Republicans' ability to F things up, to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. There's obviously a lot of variables in there. I think there's enough time that if the Republicans get off their ass and actually start messaging what they should be messaging, we know what's working, right? All you got to do is take a look at a lot of these local school board elections around the country. The San Francisco school board, one of the school boards in San Francisco, people, listen to me. I'm going to say it again. San Francisco recalled 2 of their board members because those 2 board members were out there, wanting to, have sexual ideology classes, with kindergartners and first graders. I really think the left really screwed themselves, they shot themselves in the foot when they started, going after kids and, showing that they were willing to go after kids, because that doesn't resonate well, especially in minority communities. And I think one of the school board district that, had the recall in San Francisco, that was a predominantly Asian community. It was like 80% Asian. And, you start talking, and, Luke's talked about it before with, Hispanic voters in Texas. A lot of the Hispanic voters, they're very conservative. They're, most of them are Catholics. And it's just that stuff does not resonate with them. And the left, man, they have not figured this out. You start talking about going after people's kids and people who generally might be on your side, or they might be indifferent, those fence sitters who voted, for the left in 2020, because the orange man was bad and made them feel sad inside with his mean tweets. They're not going to vote for you. They might not vote for the right, but they damn sure are going to vote for you. They're going to stay home. So I think you have that. And I tell you what's really going to come into play here for the midterms is what's going to come out of that meeting on 3 May with the Fed. We're looking at interest rates. Interest rates are going up. The Dow was down 800 points today when it closed. 800 points, boys and girls. It's that recession is coming. The only way, and I talked about it before, the only way for the government to stop inflation and get a hold of it is to cause a recession. And how do you cause a recession? You raise interest rates. So I think we're about to see 2 very close, big interest rate hikes that is going to, slow down the inflation and stop it. And that's not going to be over. That pain is not going to be over by November. That pain is not going to be over by the midterms. So if Republicans get out there and they campaign on the economy, which impacts everybody every day, it impacts everybody at the gas pump every time they fill up, and they see that, gas is still over $4 a gallon. That U.S. average, I think, is still $4.23, $4.24. And somebody on the left, some news channel was like, it's down 3 cents. Look at this. It's, the national average is still above $4.20. You psycho. Like, I would not be celebrating right now. Now is not the time for you to spike the football, bro. So I think the economy is going to have a big thing to do with it. If Republicans get out there and campaign on the economy, campaign on, what the left is trying to do to sexually indoctrinate and groom children, and get out there and campaign on, CRT. Those were things that resonated with people, and you saw it up in Kenosha. There was another school board. Guess what? They flipped the entire single school board to conservative members because of what the left was out there doing. And the answers to the test are there. It's up to the GOP to actually get up off their ass and do something about it. And not, what they can't do is rest on their laurels and think, oh, we got this in the bag, because they'll screw it up. They'll figure out a way to screw it up. They always do. And, we'll see. But I think it could be good. But I don't know, man. I'm cynical, and fuck, dude. They're gonna fuck it up.
I love the term. I love the term. Rest on your laurels. A lot of people don't know where that comes from, Josh, because it's a great term and everybody knows what it means, but no one knows where it came from. So back in the ancient Olympic days, they used to give, instead of a gold medal, you got a wreath over your head of laurels. So when you won the Olympic medal, you won the Olympic event, whatever it was, you got a wreath of laurels. So you took a lot of pride in that, and then you got lazy. And you rested on your laurels. And the next time you came back for the Olympics, you got your ass kicked. So I love that phrase. So real quick, back to Disney, one little thing. So Josh, I will see Thor. I will see that movie. That is not necessarily my choice, starring Chris Hemsworth and the other Chris. I will see Thor and support Disney on that one. So you know what? We got to do what we got to do. Cancel culture is not a real thing. We got to go where the wind blows. Another little bit of news real quick. Mike Lindell is back on Twitter. So I will follow them and very quickly mute him, because I love the guy. He's great, but it's like, okay, dude, I like you and I admire your story and all that stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and listen or read your commercials all day long. So for those of you on YouTube, it's going to be my last little segment. I know you're all looking at my cupboard back here. This is my little office. I'm still setting it up. Got to hang some stuff on the walls over here. The lights I got to work on that. But if you're wondering what's in the cupboard, I've got 2 months worth of MREs, various survival materials, more tannerite than a person should actually have. I've got a set of the Jaws of Life, an alligator, and 8 Roman gladiators. So come over to my house sometime. I'll show you what's in my cupboard over there. There's a lot of ammunition in this house, but not a lot of guns. I don't know. I lost them in a horrible, horrible kayaking accident out on the lake. They're somewhere out there. So ATF, if you're listening, trawl that lake, you'll find them. and while you're at it, dredge the lake, because we really need that. So, man, I think it's been a good episode. I've got so much more to say on what Josh was just talking about with the elections. I've been seeing more and more of Elizabeth Warren, and I don't think that bodes well for 2024. I mean, she is all over the place now. I don't know if that's the algorithms messing with me. I don't know. Josh just said BLM is back on Twitter as well. Hey, man, Elon's following through on what he's going to say, on what he said he's going to do, and he's saying all the right things. Midterms, Roger, it's you delve deeper into this than we do, than I do at least. I don't know how much of a wave it's going to be. I hope it's going to be this huge tsunami tidal wave, but I think we'll win a few seats. But I don't know. What I'm kind of focused on and really excited about is what's going to happen in 2024, dude. I mean, it's shaping up to be a real disaster. And, the Joker side of me is like, I cannot wait to watch this happen. I'll just leave DJT alone on that one. I mean, what do you think? You nodded your head when I said Elizabeth Warren. Like, she's all over the place. It's like I haven't seen Klobuchar as much. We'll see. I think of the Elizabeth Warren's people are saying it's time. Now's the time to start putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I agree. It's you have midterms coming up, time to get your name out there, time to get your face out there. I think, there's also this push to get a lot of progressive ideas done before the midterms, before the rest of the folks are sworn in. So lately there's been this big push, especially from her end, on the student loans, student loan forgiveness. And supposedly today, Biden met with a lot of cabinet members to look at different ways to forgive the student loans. But I guess that's another issue we can get into here in one of the next couple episodes. So last thing I have before I kick it over to Josh to close this out, couple things. Pretty interesting story today. 71% of 18 to 24-year-olds won't go back to an office. And I actually heard the news reporter say, you know what? Maybe this wasn't about COVID. This was just about people not wanting to go back to work. And it's like, you know what? I'm pretty sure C3 has been saying that for 2 years now. You had some folks that were definitely scared, and you have a small percentage that just, compromise immune system or whatever. But let's be real. It wasn't the COVID thing that was keeping them at home. They liked working from home. They like working remote. So 71% 18 to 24-year-olds won't go back into an office. And finally, for my piece, my heart goes out to Bishop Evans. He was the specialist who died, the National Guard soldier. I tell you, this is what pisses me off about Jen Psaki. Okay. One, they should have come out immediately and made a statement. And I listened to her statement. Her thing was, he was a Texas employee. Yeah, that's all he was a Texas employee. Yeah, you can go screw yourself. Okay. And she said a couple more words after that. So, people can go Google it, you can YouTube it or whatever. But the summary of what she said was that, she was a Texas employee doing work for Governor Abbott. So you know what, that's pretty much a Texas thing. And it's like, hey, this guy was a U.S. service member that may at the time had been serving, in the National Guard capacity. But a lot of these folks, as we know, and as our listeners know, they get activated. They do federal time. They deploy. They go overseas. And this guy jumped in to save illegal immigrants coming across the river from drowning. And then come to find they were smuggling drugs. And then that's the disconnect that these folks have, is that like, hey, I get it. It's a holistic approach. Okay. It's not just a border wall. I understand that. Okay. But to dumb it down, it's like, if we weren't encouraging these folks to come over and making it so easy for them to come over, you wouldn't have these folks out here just broad daylight where somebody has to jump in to save anybody. And then come to find out that it was drug smugglers at that. I mean, it wasn't even, a husband, a wife, and the family and the kids or whatever. They're smuggling drugs in here to go kill your kids. How do you think fentanyl gets into this place? But I take away from the point that, for a guy like Bishop Evans, which, from what I thought, he was a specialist. So you have a young guy who was, had his entire career ahead of him. You talk about selfless service, and, it's amazing. I've never been in that type of position to where, I guess I don't know what was going through his mind, and probably nothing. It was probably like, I see a family, they're drowning, and I need to help. And that's probably the only thing that went through his mind. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, it was the last thing that went through his mind. So, our hearts and prayers from all of us C3 here at C3 go out to, Bishop Evans and his family. Other than that, it's like Psaki, White House, Biden, just be better. Just be better. That's all I got, Josh.
Well, it's hard to be better when your approval rating is in the low 30s and probably a little bit lower than that. Pretty soon, the inflation rate's going to be higher than his approval rating if things keep trending the way they are.
That is a good tweet. That is tweet that. That is a great tweet.
Josh has them every once in a while, man. He'll come out with a zinger, bro. But hey, you put it on the C3, man. Don't put it on your own. All y'all's good zingers go out on your own accounts instead of the C3, man. Roger, who'd you get a like from the other day?
It was actually Candace Owens responded to one of my tweets. And it's crazy because even now there's like notification, somebody liked her response and it was like, great, I get like one like and one response and she gets like 13 million. It's like, well, I'm the one who came up with the statement. Like, what the heck, man? That was my statement.
It's because you don't use hashtags.
You know what? I've had to, it was actually funny the other day because and I'm horrible at Twitter. I don't use Twitter and I really don't use Facebook outside a whole lot of, except for the C3 stuff that we do. It's just not one of the things I'm into a whole lot, but I've caught myself several times tweeting. Well, okay, let's be fair. Maybe just a couple times because I don't get on the C3 Twitter page a whole lot, but I'll tweet it, realize I didn't put any hashtags in there. I hear Josh's voice, over my shoulder saying, nobody's going to see that crap because you didn't put any hashtags. Nobody's going to see that shit. So then I go back, I delete it and I add some hashtags and tweet it back out. Just for
Elon is going to fix that. Elon is going to fix that. That's one of the things he's going to make an edit function on the Twitter. So there you go.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's kind of
because if you like something, right, and chances are you're never going to see that tweet again. Somebody goes back and edits it to, put in there something completely egregious, and now the record is you have liked something that's completely egregious. Like somebody puts on somebody goes back and edits their tweet to, I like Nickelback. And they're like, "Oh, dude, Luke liked this. Luke likes Nickelback too." It's dangerous.
Edit with track changes like they do in Microsoft Word.
I think that's what he's talking about. That's what because you can see the edit and you can see the original tweet. That's
people are going to abuse that, dude. People will use that.
They always do.
It's just
hopefully
bad,
we abuse it first.
It's just bad, dude. No. All right. So final thoughts. And close us out here. It's been I just realized it is only Tuesday. It feels like a week of Mondays and it's only Tuesday. I'm gonna be up in the swamp the end of this week and in this weekend for a retirement party for one of our buds and for a reunion for one of our old organizations. So
is that now?
Friday,
is that this week? Really?
This Friday, Saturday. You're going to be there.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. But give everybody our best, Josh.
Yeah. Well, you and I are gonna figure out tomorrow. We're gonna link up tomorrow night. So. We'll definitely do that. So yeah, I'll be up in the swamp. I'm going to see as many, I'm going to make fun of many people wearing masks as I can, which will probably be a lot after they harangued us for the last 2 years. And now they're asking, to just be left alone. No, sorry. It's not how this is going to work. Not how this is going to go. I'm going to make fun of you and mock you in public like you did us. So that's about it for us. Thanks again to Carlton Zeus. Always really appreciate your music. We have got to get him on one day. We've got to get him on, Luke. You need to make that happen. So go check out Carlton Zeus. It's got a movie. It's got new music out. www.carltonzeus.com, Apple Music. What you got, Luke?
Website. Our website.
And our website, yes. www.culperscanteencup.com. Got some new blogs up there. Luke's always got the quick takes up there. Hilarious. You don't want to miss them. Give you a laugh in the middle of the week. Give you some motivation on hump day. So that's going to do it for us. Till we talk to you again, keep those canteen cups tightly secured.